For years, I sent my family $4,500 a month without ever asking for anything in return. Then, just before my sister's wedding, my dad banned me, said I'd embarrass them. But when her rich fiancé saw me and said, "Good to see you, boss," everything exploded. And the next morning, people always say family is forever. That no matter what, they'll be there for you. I used to believe that too. But let me tell you something. Sometimes, family is just a label people hide behind when they need something. And sometimes, the deepest betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from your own blood. My name's Elena Rivers. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Reno, Nevada. I run a cybersecurity company, StrataGuard. I co-founded it with two college friends 10 years ago, and today we manage contracts worth millions. It's not a flashy job to explain, especially not at dinner tables where everyone wants to hear about TV anchors or real estate moguls. But I built it from scratch. Every late night, every signed deal, every breakdown. I was there, holding it all together. My family never understood that. Maybe they never wanted to. My younger sister, Brielle, was the shining star of the family. She's 29 now. Always the pretty one, the charming one, the one who could light up a room without trying. She became a social media influencer, makeup tutorials, fashion hauls, breakfast smoothie routines, all those things people scroll through without really thinking. Somehow, it was always enough to impress everyone. And me? I was just Elena, the one in tech, or, as my mother once called me, our quiet one. Whenever relatives asked what I did, the answer was vague. Something with computers. I didn't correct them anymore. What was the point? But even with that, I never held back. For years, I sent my parents $4,500 every month. Quietly. No reminders, no requests. Just did it. Covered their electricity, water, internet, insurance, sometimes even food. My dad's knee surgery last year? I paid for that too. When the heater broke, I wired the money the same night. No one asked if I could afford it. No one asked how I was doing. It was like it was expected. Like I owed them something for existing. I rarely visited. Not because I didn't care, but because every time I did, I felt like a guest in my own family. My room had been turned into storage. The fridge was stocked with Brielle's favorite snacks. Conversations floated around me. I was invisible. Just a wallet with legs. Still, I thought maybe things would be different this time. When Brielle announced her wedding, I was genuinely happy for her. I figured, at least I'd be invited. She was marrying someone she met through a brand campaign, Cameron Hayes. He looked the part, well-dressed, confident, the kind of guy who smiled with his whole face. From the photos, they looked perfect. Of course, the whole family was ecstatic. My mom kept saying, "This is it, Elena. This is her future. She's marrying well." I called my dad one evening to ask about the wedding date. I just wanted to offer help, maybe pitch in. But as soon as he answered, I knew something was off. His tone wasn't warm. It was distant. "Elena," he said. "Listen, we're not inviting you." I thought I'd misheard. "What?" He sighed. "Brielle's marrying into wealth. This is a big deal for us, for the whole family. She wants the day to go smoothly, no tension." I didn't understand. What tension? "She doesn't want you there. She said you make her feel small. Like she can't shine when you're around. And honestly, this is our big break. Cameron's family is well off. We don't want any awkwardness." I stayed quiet. He continued. "Our life is going to change, Elena. This wedding is important. Please understand." A slow cold settled in my chest. "Even after everything I've done? I send you money every month. I paid for your surgery, the heater, the phone bill." "We never asked you to," he cut in sharply. "You did that on your own." There it was. Just like that. "We never asked you to." That night, I sat at my desk and pulled up my banking app. Scrolled through transaction after transaction. $4,500 a month for nearly 4 years. Close to $110,000. Not one thank you. Not even once. I didn't cry. I just canceled every single payment. One by one. Electricity, water, internet. Gone. And for the first time in years, I felt calm. The days passed slowly. I didn't hear anything from them. No calls. No messages. Not even a hint of guilt. Just silence. Like I never existed. And then the wedding day arrived. I knew it was happening that weekend. The family house was hosting the reception. Brielle had insisted on it, saying she wanted it to feel personal. I stayed home. Made myself coffee. Read emails. Tried not to think about it. But around 3 p.m., the first message came through. From my mother. Elena, something's wrong. The power's out. Can you check if the bill was paid? Then another. No water either. Guests are coming. Please fix this. Then from Brielle. The Wi-Fi is down. Are you serious right now? Mom's freaking out. I just stared at the screen. No apology. No recognition of what they'd done. Just demands. Just like always. And then came a video call. Uncle Rick. I hesitated. But something made me answer. He looked tired, standing in their chaotic kitchen lit only by window light. Behind him, I saw guests fanning themselves with programs, someone shouting about the heat, and my mother, red-faced, nearly in tears, muttering something. Elena, Uncle Rick said softly. It's bad here. They didn't know you'd stop the payments. They thought everything would just keep running. I didn't say anything. Then someone else came into view, dressed in a sharp suit, eyes scanning the room. It was Cameron. And when he saw me on the screen, everything froze. Elena, he asked. You're Elena Rivers. I nodded, quiet. You're the CEO of Stratagard? He looked like he'd just been hit by a truck. You're my boss. I just looked back at him and gave the faintest smile. And in that moment I knew everything was about to change. There was a silence after Cameron recognized me, one of those heavy, loaded pauses where everyone around him had stopped breathing, waiting to see what would happen next. I could see my mother behind him, trying to smile like nothing was wrong, while quietly mouthing at Uncle Rick to turn the phone off. But he didn't. Cameron was still looking at me, like he was piecing together a puzzle he didn't know existed. You're the Elena Rivers from Stratagard, he said again, as if saying it twice might change the reality of it. Yes, I said simply. He looked shaken. Why didn't you say anything? Because you never asked, I thought. Just like the rest of them. I wasn't invited, I replied. And I don't show up where I'm not wanted. He didn't say anything back, just turned away from the phone slowly, his face pale. That was the last I saw before Uncle Rick gently lowered the camera and ended the call. I sat there for a few minutes, just staring at my blank laptop screen. I didn't feel satisfaction. Not exactly. It wasn't joy or revenge either. It was something quieter. A kind of peace I hadn't known I needed. That night, I received a text from Cameron. It came around 10:17 p.m. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I truly didn't. I don't know what to say except thank you. You didn't say a word, but everything was so clear. I called off the wedding. I read that message at least 5 times. Then another one came in right after. I can't marry someone who treats her own sister like she's disposable. I'm sorry this happened at all. But I'm grateful I found out now, not later. I sat with my phone in hand, my tea long cold, and typed my reply slowly. You saw the truth. I didn't have to say anything. I didn't hear from him again that night. But the fallout, that was only beginning. 2 days later, I opened the door of my apartment to find my parents standing there. My mother had her purse slung tightly over her shoulder, and my father held a manila envelope like it contained something important. They looked tired, but not in the way people look after a bad week. They looked like their pride had been dragged through mud. Can we come in? My mother asked. I didn't say anything, just stepped aside. They walked in like they owned the place, like nothing had happened. I poured them each a glass of water and sat across from them, waiting. I didn't feel nervous. I didn't even feel tense. I just wanted to hear what lie they'd wrap their guilt in this time. My dad started first. Your mother and I, we've been talking. We realized things were said before the wedding that maybe shouldn't have been said. I didn't respond. He continued. We didn't expect you to cut everything off like that. The house went dark, the internet cut out, the water shut off. all during the reception. Your mother was humiliated. My mother quickly added, Brielle hasn't stopped crying. Cameron left without even saying goodbye. She's devastated. I stared at her, unblinking. She should be, I said quietly. My dad cleared his throat. Anyway, we're not here to argue. We just came to ask if you'd consider helping us again. Just until things settle. How much? I asked. Something small. My mom jumped in quickly. About $2,000 a month. Just to keep up with utilities, insurance, and a few other things. Brielle's struggling. This would give her space to recover. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. You still want me to pay, I said slowly. After all that? You are always the reliable one, my dad said, as if that made it okay. You're doing well. You can afford it. And what about Brielle? She's going through a hard time, my mom replied. We can't pressure her right now. She's hurting. I leaned forward. I sent you over $110,000 across 4 years. Not once did either of you say thank you. Not once did you ask how I was doing. But the moment your golden daughter gets left at the altar, suddenly you're at my door asking for help. They both fell quiet. So I made my offer. I'll contribute, I said. But only if Brielle also contributes $1,000 a month. And you sign a contract that says when you both pass, the house goes to me. Not to her. Not to be sold. To me. Their faces dropped. My dad stood up abruptly, his voice rising. You're seriously putting conditions on your own parents? We raised you. I looked at him dead in the eye. No, I said. You raised Brielle. You used me. My mom looked like she might cry, but I didn't feel pity. I had nothing left to give them, not emotionally, not financially. I'd given everything. And they had thrown me away the second I didn't fit the image they wanted. They left soon after. My father slammed the door behind him. I didn't get up to lock it right away. I just stood there for a minute, breathing in the quiet. The real kind of quiet. Not the silence I used to keep out of guilt. This one was clean. Free. That week, Brielle tried calling. I didn't answer. Then came the messages. You ruined my wedding. You planned this, didn't you? I loved him. You're so cold. I didn't reply to any of them. But she was wrong about one thing. I didn't ruin her wedding. She did. With every lie, every selfish choice, every time she leaned into being the favorite while I picked up the pieces. She brought that ending on herself. And Cameron? He never said anything more. But he stayed at Stratagard. I saw him in meetings, focused, professional, distant. We never discussed the wedding, and I appreciated that. Some truths, once spoken, don't need to be repeated. Eventually, the noise faded. The messages stopped. My parents never called again. And me? I just kept living. Peacefully. Quietly. And for the first time, fully. After the wedding disaster and the fallout with my parents, the days that followed were quiet. Not the kind of silence that feels heavy or uncertain, but a different kind. Like I had finally shut the door on a storm that had been raging for years. There were no more messages. No more calls. Nothing from my mother. Nothing from Brielle. It was like they had all vanished, or maybe they were just too embarrassed to show their faces again. Either way, I didn't miss the noise. Work at Stratagard picked up as usual. The office buzzed with new security contracts, our quarterly strategy plans, and a big client meeting coming up. Cameron kept to himself, always professional. We crossed paths several times in the conference room, during presentations, or while reviewing reports. He always greeted me with a polite nod or a quiet good morning, but we never discussed what had happened. Not once. And that was fine with me. I appreciated that he didn't try to explain or bring up Brielle. It showed me something I never expected from him: respect. He'd seen the chaos firsthand. He'd stood in the middle of it and made a choice that not many people have the courage to make. He walked away. One afternoon, about 2 weeks after everything unfolded, I stayed late at the office to finish reviewing a proposal. The entire building was dim and silent. I like it that way, when the world goes still and I can think clearly. As I was packing up my laptop, Cameron knocked on the glass door to my office. Hey, he said. Do you have a moment? I gestured for him to come in. He sat across from me, holding a folder, but it was clear that wasn't what he came to talk about. I wanted to thank you again, he said, for the way you handled everything. I still think about that day. I didn't say anything right away. I've never been part of something like that, he continued. I didn't realize how much pretending was happening until I saw it all collapse. They weren't pretending with you, I said, folding my hands. That's the real them. You just hadn't seen it yet. He nodded slowly. I wish I'd known sooner. I leaned back. You found out when you needed to. Better now than after the wedding. He gave a soft laugh, but it was empty. There was still guilt in his eyes, maybe even shame, but I wasn't there to comfort him. That wasn't my job. I've moved on, Cameron, I said quietly. I hope you will too. He nodded again, then stood. Thank you, Elena. After he left, I sat in the stillness of my office, letting the quiet wash over me. Not long after, I turned off the lights and left for home. The next few weeks passed without incident. But one day, out of the blue, I got an email from Brielle. The subject line just said, "Please read." I hesitated before clicking it. Inside was a long, messy wall of text, some of it angry, some desperate. She tried to explain herself, how she felt unloved despite being the favorite, how she envied me for being strong and unshakable, how Cameron only loved me because I had power. She said I'd always made her feel invisible, even when everyone else adored her. And then she asked the one thing I expected least. Can you talk to him for me? Just once. He still respects you. Maybe you could tell him I'm trying. I'll do better. I just want one more chance. I stared at the screen, expressionless. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. And then I didn't reply. I just closed the email and archived it. A few hours later, another message came. This one shorter, more urgent. I know you got my email.
Please, say something.
You're his boss. Just convince him to meet me. That's when I realized she still didn't understand. It wasn't about influence. It wasn't about revenge. Cameron didn't leave because of me. He left because she showed him exactly who she was. I didn't destroy anything. I just stepped out of the way and let the truth unravel itself. So I wrote one line. Cameron didn't walk away because I asked him to. He left because he finally saw you. I hit send. No reply came after that. A week later, I saw my parents again, but not in person. I passed by them in a grocery store. My mother looked older, worn out, holding a basket of discounted items. My father didn't meet my eyes. They didn't say anything to me, and I didn't say anything to them. We simply walked past each other like strangers. It didn't hurt, not like it used to. It just confirmed what I already knew. When people only love you when you're useful, that isn't love. It's convenience. I had spent so long trying to prove I was good enough, helpful enough, loving enough. And now that I had taken that away, they had nothing left to say to me. Maybe that was the most honest moment we ever had. Later that evening, I went to one of my favorite cafes near the edge of the city. A quiet place with big windows and an old wooden sign above the counter that read, "Home is not always a place. Sometimes it's a choice." I took my usual seat by the window and ordered a tea. The sky outside was melting into shades of orange and lavender. I watched the world pass by, peaceful and unaware. For so long, I thought I had to choose between being kind and being strong. But the truth is, you can be both. You can be soft-spoken and still walk away. You can be the quiet one and still hold power in your silence. I didn't burn anything down. I didn't yell or scream. I didn't even show up to the wedding. But still, everything fell apart. And not because of me. Because sometimes, when people build their entire lives on a lie, the smallest truth is enough to bring the whole thing crashing down. I wish I could tell you that everything after that point was perfect, that cutting ties with my family meant I never had to think about them again. But life doesn't always wrap things up so neatly. Sometimes, the memories return when you least expect them. A certain song, a scent, a random street name that reminds you of where you grew up. The ache never fully disappears. It just changes shape. But I'd made peace with my choice. One rainy Sunday afternoon, I got a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I looked through the peephole, I felt my breath pause for just a second. It was Brielle. I hadn't seen her in months. Her makeup was lighter than usual, and she looked tired. Not the glamorous influencer everyone saw online. Just a woman who had run out of places to run. I didn't say anything as I opened the door. She stood there awkwardly, her arms folded like she was hugging herself. "Can we talk?" she asked. I nodded once and stepped aside. She sat on the edge of the couch like she didn't want to get too comfortable. I stayed quiet, letting her speak first. After a long pause, she finally said, "I know I messed up." I didn't interrupt. "I wasn't fair to you. I never was. And I don't think I even understood how badly I treated you until everything happened." She was looking at the floor, twisting her hands. Cameron was the first person who ever looked at me differently when I did something wrong. Everyone else just ignored it or made excuses for me. I stayed quiet, just listening. "I was so used to being the favorite," she continued. "It made me cruel. And when he left, I tried to blame you. But deep down, I knew it wasn't your fault. He saw the real me, and I hated that." I looked at her for a long time. I wasn't angry anymore. Just tired. Tired of being the one who carried everyone's weight. "I didn't do anything to ruin your wedding," I said quietly. "I didn't have to." "I know," she whispered. Another pause stretched between us. She looked around my apartment, her eyes landing on a photo frame on my shelf. It was just a simple picture of me and my two co-founders from the early days of Stratagard. No fancy suits, no spotlight. Just tired smiles and pride in our eyes. "You really built something," she said. I nodded. She took a breath. "I don't want anything from you. Not money, not a favor. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." For the first time in years, those words didn't sound hollow. "Thank you," I said. She stood up after that. No hugs. No dramatic apologies. Just two women finally facing the truth of what had happened. Before she left, she turned to me and said, "You didn't raise your voice. You didn't lash out. You just walked away." I think that's the part that haunts all of us the most. I closed the door behind her gently, then stood there for a moment, feeling a strange stillness settle over me. Not sadness. Not relief. Just stillness. A week later, I received a formal letter from my parents. No return address. It was typed, not handwritten, and signed at the bottom. In it, they said they had decided to sell the house and move in with an aunt across the state. They didn't ask for anything. No apology. No emotion. Just cold, impersonal facts. As if I were an outsider being informed of a minor change. That was the last time I ever heard from them. Years passed. Cameron eventually left Stratagard to pursue a different position on the East Coast. Before he left, he stopped by my office. He shook my hand and said, "You are always the one who had real strength." I wished him well. And just like that, he was gone too. Now I live a life that's quiet, focused mine. I travel when I want. I read more. I go days without checking my phone. I lead my company with integrity. The people around me see me, not just for what I do, but for who I am. Sometimes I still think about that wedding. About how one moment of silence, just a single paused glance on a video call, set everything into motion. I never raised my voice. Never made a scene. But the truth has its own way of rising. And when it does, it doesn't need an audience. It just needs one person willing to let it speak. And that's what I did. In the end, I didn't seek revenge. I didn't destroy my family. I simply stepped out of their story. I stopped playing the role they assigned me, the one who always fixed everything, who paid the bills, who stayed in the background. And when I left, the house they built on lies and expectations collapsed on its own. I walk differently now, with less weight on my shoulders. I don't feel the need to explain myself to anyone. I don't shrink into silence to make others feel more comfortable. I just live. One evening, I found myself back at that same cafe, the one with the warm lighting and that old wooden sign above the counter. The one that reads, "Sometimes the best revenge is letting them destroy themselves with their own lies." And it still makes me smile. because they thought silence meant weakness. But for me, silence was the beginning of everything.